Hello, this is Frank Falvey with Frank's Musings. And today my musing is over Joe Biden running for re-election. Let me give you a little background of myself. I have been a lifelong Democrat. I have seen the reason that the Democratic Party has my economic and social interest in heart, and has in the past has stood for a lot of the values that I place on our society. I have been active in the party over the years. Have done quite a few shows like this, supporting Democrats and politically interviewing both Republicans and Democrats. So I come from a background of supporting the Democratic candidates and party, but I cannot support Joe Biden to be re-elected or to run for the nomination of the Democratic Party. He has not had a great administration. He has failed in his policies. He has spent more money needlessly and wastefully. He has not had good planning and administration. I think particularly his advisors and staff in the White House in particular have not really been in his interest. I do not believe his health and his mental status to see real problems and issues and to resolve them in a way that would be in the most interest of the United States is occurring. So let me go over a few things. In this election coming up, Chris Christie made an interesting observation on Good Morning America. That right now inflation is a big topic. And apparently he went into the store, I think it was a grocery store, bought 6 items and paid $50. Joe Biden right now has a very, very low rating of approval. He has helped cause this inflation. First of all, with the way he spent the COVID money. Mentioning the COVID money, he gave, like Trump did. Trump gave, I don't know, $1,200. Biden gave $1,400 to each person that filed an income tax. And that was done the wrong way. It was done because everyone got the same amount of money. It should have been a reverse tax cut. In other words, when Trump did the tax cut, the rich got the most money. When Biden did the $1,400, those people on the lower end of the income scale should have got the most money, and those individuals gradually, as the income scale went up, should have received the less. And at a certain point, they didn't need the $1,400 at all. There should have been some sort of cutoff. The Great American Plan for Infrastructure has overstimulated, along with other factors, the economy. So we have just poured money into the economy. We are now down to 3.3% unemployment. But the money is going to begin to run out in September 2023. because it's supposed to be spent by then. And there will be, and there's beginning to be somewhat of a downturn in the economy. So by the time that the election is rolling along, I don't foresee that the Biden economic plan is going to be very well thought of economically by each family or each members of the family or each working person. And if we go back to the pullout in Afghanistan, this should have been done earlier. Biden had indicated that one of the things he would first do as president was pull out of Afghanistan. There should have been better planning. There should have been more intelligence and understanding that the Afghan people were totally going to collapse and put up no resistance to the Taliban. I mean, that collapse was so precipitous. I think that people in the intelligence community should have known that once we started pulling out, it was going to be a complete disaster. It was a disaster not only for our troops, but it was a disaster for the Afghan people that helped supported us during that war, that 13-year war. We, the people that supported us, were left behind. We were left behind in a way that they would be hunted down, they would be persecuted, and that they had no chance of ever getting out of that country. It was a total disaster. COVID-19. I don't know if Biden did a great job, but I certainly don't think he spent the money wisely. I don't think he really spent the huge sum of money that he was giving out to prevent the disease from spreading. 75% or over 1 million people over the age of 60 died from COVID. It was not a young person's disease. It was a disease that killed the people in nursing homes, killed people in condominiums, killed older people that had other medical problems. And yet, I never saw, even to today, any way of a disease like COVID-19, how to handle it in those situations, how to handle it among older individuals. It was just left like the flu. Well, if they get it, they're old, so what does it matter? And there was a lot of stress put on children catching it and dying when there were very, very few children doing this. His plan on the money that he spent during COVID really was more a giveaway to other organizations like colleges. Colleges got money to help prevent COVID, but do you know that Howard University was one of just 2 colleges that were named specifically to get $39 million. I wonder if an alumni called Kamala Harris had anything to do with that. If you read through that bill, okay, time after time, I don't think the COVID money was related to COVID problems. His plan to build a better America was only a plan to help those industries in those groups that Biden supported. It was never a plan to put the economy on a better track. And thank goodness for Joe Mancuso from West Virginia that he put a halt on how much was going to be spent on this plan, because it only has contributed to the inflationary cycle that we're now experiencing. And instead of putting into wage laws, into the federal minimum law, a plan to raise wages based on inflation, our federal wage law is ridiculous that I don't think there's anyone being paid less than or anywhere near equal to the federal wage law. It has only added to the inflationary in debt cycle that we're now at $31.4 trillion in debt. Most of that happened in the last 4 years. His obsession to get the basketball star out of Russia, who first of all committed an offense that she knew was wrong, broke the Russian law, then lied about it, okay? And because she was an LBG person, and the LBG community, which is close to Trump, wanted her released and supported. I support the fact that her sentence was too long and should have been released based on the length of her sentence. But to give up an known arms dealer just for a simple trade of her and not the fellow that has been there for 4 years before, not also released, this shows a bowing and catering to groups of people that support Biden. But it's not helping our country. It's not a decision that puts us in good standing. The immigration policy probably goes back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and when all the people from Cuba started coming to the United States. It has not ever been accurately handled. There has never been a thoughtful plan. And we are simply not tracking and letting too many people cross the border without sufficient controls and planning. One of the things is the Hispanic community now, the Latin Central American community ethnically, represents a higher portion of our, higher percentage of our population than does the African American community. And yet, that Central American community, after they cross the border, there is no tracking. There is no even news reporting or documents. How are they progressing? How are they working? What is that community doing? There is complete silence in news stories, in follow-ups, in education, you are not hearing anything about how they are integrating into American society. We need a broader information. We need a broader spectrum of how that community is integrating and how are they doing within the society. We cannot have whole countries come to the United States, okay, and think that we're going to be better off letting them do that. There is a point where we need to switch more people coming from South and Central America to more people coming from the Middle East, more people coming from Asia. We need a broader spectrum of immigration, a much broader spectrum of immigration to come in to balance, okay, the American ideal and the American economy. Well, Joe health to me is a concern. It's a concern to me that how he will even do in the next 2 years from a health perspective. I did see one good shot of him on a bicycle with a bicycle suit. I don't know whether he was just going on a bike ride, but if you want to promote that Joe is healthy, then you need to promote more what his physical activities and limitations are. And, you know, for someone already into his 80s, I cannot picture from a physical, mental standpoint that a person of that age should ever be president of the United States. We need a fresh Democrat. We need a Democrat that has some more forward thinking culturally, economically, that represents a different generation than President Biden and the administration represents. We need to come up with a winner. Joe Biden is not going to win, regardless of what Republican will be nominated. We may even want to look for third-party candidates, candidates that represent more of the middle American consensus, both the Democrat and Republican, in the president. My thinking of Kamala Harris, who seems to be assigned the immigration problem and seemed to have stepped away from it as quickly as she could, has seemed to contribute nothing to solving problems in the administration, does not render a lot of comfort if something happens to Joe that he cannot fulfill his duties as president. Well, that's Frank's musings over the fact that we need to act now. We need to begin planning and realistically looking at why in the world do we want Joe Biden to be nominated again. Thank you, and have a good day.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.